primarily during the academic season at the O'Neill when we are not there. And so we're trying now to create additional residencies where the artists can also be teaching a bit, but more than anything, creating and having the same type of space that a playwright who would come, who is specifically a playwright, would come in the summer, that they'd have the same type of opportunity and experience. So that's something new, and it's really nice to meet so many different ensembles here this specific week to find out who needs that more and to really find out what type of residency works for them.
Craig Peterson, Philadelphia Live Arts Festival. I'm particularly interested in the development aspect of this issue with regard to networking, and a lot of it grew out of a lot of investment that Mellon made in exploring the dance community and why there's so few dance residency models that exist around the country. And I really predict that in a couple of years it's going to be the same issue with ensemble-based work, because essentially what ensemble-based work is the same model that dance companies have been using for the last 4 decades in terms of how they develop their work. And I was at the Les Artistes conference in Montreal this year, and there was a really interesting young organization called Residency Unlimited that does not do performance residencies yet, but basically they're a young group of people who decided, okay, the real estate market crashed here in New York. There's tons of empty space everywhere. How can we facilitate getting artists into them? And this sort of mirrors the idea of empty universities in the summertime or whatever. And I was fascinated because it's a particularly new, it's very Facebook. It's like we don't need to have the burden of a space. We can tailor make a residency for any artist. Tell us what you need and we'll bring you in and we'll find the space for you. And I see that happening a little bit more and more. The other thing that grew out of some of this thinking was trying to come up with networks of people with resources, either with space or with relationships to people with space, to create a network of partners that could potentially take on 2 or 3 projects and start circulating them around to different communities, similar to the NPN, but without the performative aspect. It's simply about the development of the work. And so one of the funding sources that's interested is that I don't think it's come up yet, is the NEA consortium grants, that they're trying to get people to partner together to pool their resources and basically get multiple organizations involved with infrastructure to bolster a project at multiple phases.
Let me just say something about the consortium grants for those of you who are hearing about these for the first time. You can have a consortium grant. You can be part of a consortium and apply on your own for a separate project, and it's one of the only ways that the NEA can support your organization in more than one way in one round. Yeah.
And the new guidelines have just come out. New for the consortium grants is an innovation. I don't want to say requirement, but they have a definition, and they're looking for organizations to come together and explore new approaches. So there's an innovation quotient to the consortium grants now.
And you also reminded me of another bright spot that I don't know that if anybody here has worked there, let me know, but Orchard Project, their guidelines are out now, and it's time to apply if you would like to be involved in the residency at Orchard.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say about the university.
Yeah.
Barclay Goldsmith Borderlands Theater in Tucson. The issue of locally based work sometimes is enhanced by national and international connections, because sometimes you're working on a play that reflects the historical moment. Like we're doing a play right now about women who cross the border, and we're looking at the structural issues in Mexico that causes that immigration. A lot of them, of course, you read in the papers, they're in great peril, they die, etc. But so I think the same thing happened with some of the Katrina plays that came out of New Orleans. There are these moments in history where the story has to get out, and you hope that the play is good enough that it will resonate beyond your own community. So that's why we're fortunate to be able to hook up with theater and prop theater in Chicago, which has a large immigrant community. We also
Through what program, Barclay?
Through the National New.
He already did that. Jason, I'll
We, at the University of Minnesota, my other job, we have for years been partnering with dance companies and allow them to use the Barker and then take their shows to the Southern. And recently, we have...
Are those two theaters?
No, the Barker is a on-campus site, and the Southern is a professional venue.
Okay.
And we have a program called an Engaged Community Partnership, which is basically the University of Minnesota is an urban campus, and we try to reach out to the community. And this year, we're starting to do it. The first project that we have was a creative collaboration, which grew out of a class, and it ended up in the Wojciech project at the Southern. And actually, Jeremy and I are going to have a public meeting, which we were supposed to be scheduling. One of the things that I wanted to talk to Jeremy about when he got back to the Twin Cities was how we could figure out a way to start doing this with playwrights. Because at the university, we're going to start opening up our spaces to companies, collectives, people to work with our students and work on their projects, and then hopefully take those and use them around in different places. And we have a setup for creative collaborations, and because the BA program is led by Laverne Seifert, it's very important to him, but our playwriting side is real weak in terms of building this, so we don't know how it's going to go yet.
Another bright spot on that, Sandra Gibson, again, on the university front, and it's been in place for near a decade, is the major university presenters. They call themselves the MUPs. It's a core of, Susie's part of that group, and others, a core of a couple dozen Research One campuses that are a consortium, and different cohorts within that consortium and many of them have been doing this work for a long time, that have commissioned research, impact and segmentation research, commissioned work. I think city companies at Krannert Center at UIlinois today, and oftentimes it's the development of the work or some commissioning funds and playing different roles on different projects. We've been hosting a group of community colleges that are trying to do a similar thing on community college campuses, and there's a network of two or three dozen leading community colleges and their presidents, and we're working within that group to do the same.
I want to ask you, Jeremy, when you hear all of these resources and you're working at a place with a huge membership of playwrights, how are playwrights connecting to these kinds of resources, the networks, like the community college program? I feel like what I'm hearing a lot of is companies, collectives, devisers connecting in this network. How are playwrights connecting to this network?
Well, thank you. Polly Carl put a lot of wonderful things in her path. I'm Jeremy Cohen, successor to Dr. Polly Carl at the Playwrights Center. And I would just say, we just completed a great partnership with Tectonic Theater Project and the university with a new play by Lee Fonikowski that also had a sort of whole development pipeline that we were able to be part of, and certainly other projects we're talking about now. In addition, I would even say there's another, Carlton, a little further south in the Twin Cities, has also approached us with some of the stuff we were talking about earlier. We were talking about academic calendars and where that would fit in, and there's a piece of it where, as Wendy was saying, they've said, we've got this multi-bazillion-dollar new building we're building that's all for multimedia and performance, and I keep saying, great, and who's teaching playwriting? Nobody. Okay, good. Well, so who's going to teach playwriting? So who will teach the writing of art? Well, we're going to give them video cameras, and they're going to. Okay, so great. So who teaches them text and narrative? Who teaches them beginning, middle, and end? Who teaches them how the character relationships are built off? No one. And so, I know it's not my answer. No one is their answer, which is a perfectly horrendous and fantastic answer to have if you're me, who wants to colonialize on all of their missed opportunities right now. So I say to them, great, well, we have all these other opportunities with all these local artists and national artists, international artists and partnerships that we want to do, and they say, great, we've got a building and some cash we'd like to give you. Do you think you could do anything with it? So I think there are those of us who are fortunate enough to be in the positions having organizations that are as well built and founded and funded as the Playwright Center is, to say we can do partnerships partnerships with sort of community partnerships with companies where the only gain is for them to, there's a local company called Bedlam, and who came to us and said, we're itinerant right now, a brilliant Twin Cities company, does a ton of new work, and said, we'll commission a couple of your playwrights on sort of lower cost commissions. Could you give us some of your, could we borrow your rehearsal room for a little bit, and can we work on something? To which I say, definitively you can. You want to commission playwrights, you can, I'll bake you muffins, you know, I'll do whatever you want me to do. So there's those level. There's the bigger ones of, you know, Berkeley Rep coming, you know, in a few weeks to come and workshop a new, you know, 30-person musical by Dominic Orlando, and how we can kind of partner with them. We did it with the Goodman this last year, and all of that. And there's just ways in which we can my job is to be out there thinking about writers and to be thinking about how to get them work and how to put them in rooms together. Lisa Krohn was talking about this last night, so that not to talk about work, but to make work and share that work and let that amplify out.
I know that Polly and I have had this conversation. The thing which is at cross purposes is the professional theater is telling playwrights, give me a 2-character play with one set. And the college is saying, I need to fill a classroom full, I need 25 characters. So that there are these two different playwriting things which are going on, because that's how come ensembles work in universities, because we got a classroom of 30 kids. And it's hard for it's hard to say to a playwright, come to campus today, you know, in May have a play, or whatever, you know what I mean?
But my job is, this is just my job, but my job is to say, write the best possible play, let me resource you in the ways that you as the artist can lead that process. And then my other job is to get on the phone with the sort of Bob Falses of the world and say, I know this is 11 characters. I want to connect you in not just about this play, but in a long-term partnership and conversation with this writer. And that will lead to, look at Aditi, we keep talking about Aditi, who is connected to probably everyone in this room. I feel like everyone is 1/8 of a degree from Aditi Kapil. I love you, Aditi. I banged on the table, sorry. But I think that the way that we share those artists is to say, that's not a small play. It's not a 2-character play. It's a play that's a big top.
What's happening in your initiatives there, Jennifer? I want to make sure that we get this bright spot out on this conversation.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Kiger from Yale Rep. So at Yale, we have the Yale Center for New Theater, and that's just the umbrella term for all of the various new play initiatives that we have going on at Yale. We commission writers, we develop their work, we produce it, and we also have an initiative called the Production Enhancement Fund, which is, its intention is to support continued life of the plays coming out of Yale Rep, so the subsequent performances of the plays coming out of Yale. At the moment, we commission, we're extremely fortunate to have the resources, mainly because of some generous funders, to commission about...
You can name them, they were bright spots.
They are the Mellon Foundation and the Robina Foundation. So now we commission up to 8 projects a year. And when I say projects, that's because sometimes we're commissioning playwrights, but we're also commissioning musicals. So sometimes we're playwrights, composers, sometimes ensembles. It just depends on what the work is. And the idea is that we know that we have a 6-play season at Yale Rep, so that we understand that we'll probably not be able to produce every single play that we commission in a timely fashion, over a certain number of years. But we understand that it is important for productions to have life, as everybody's talked about, and NNPN is so beautifully highlighted. So the idea is that even if Yale Rep doesn't premiere the play, that the money from the Production Enhancement Fund would go to support the production of that play elsewhere. So if we did the world premiere, then the Production Enhancement Fund would support 2nd or 3rd or 4th productions elsewhere. If it's a larger scale work, maybe large scale sort of co-productions, musicals. If we never premiered the play, we would support the world premiere. We would put money towards that play premiering elsewhere. So that's the idea.
Some of what Jeremy was saying, it's my job to make those connections. Is that part?